What's up, everybody? Chicago Goonie here, bringing another Arsenal talk. Within this Arsenal talk, just be talking about the game against Leicester City, the aftermath of Leicester City, and so on and so forth. Some quotes made by Arsene Wenger after the game, fans going crazy after the game. Um, there's not really much to talk about as far as the game goes. Um, there's no real point to go over the stats. There's no real point to really talk about many of the players because it was just I guess it was somewhat of a boring game to really watch. There wasn't many real chances in the game. We were lucky just to get 1 point. I believe, that Mustafa or Mustafa, thinking about Mustafi, but that Musa challenge from Hector Bellerin near the end of the game, he did kick him in the back of the legs after Musa drove past him, and it should have been a PK. Um, whether they make it or not is up for debate, but Clattenburg really missed that one. I mean, he's basically like the man of the match for us. The challenge from Koss on Drinkwater was not a PK. You could see it in slow mo and whatnot that he did get a touch on the ball, and then Drinkwater then went down and pretty much he had no other, he couldn't have went any other way as far as his momentum was other than to fall down. But Koss did get the slightest touch on the ball. You kind of saw it where the trajectory of the ball that Drinkwater had second to last touch. Koss got a little bit of a touch after that, and then the momentum of the ball just went forward instead of onward towards goal. If Drinkwater would have ever got a touch to it, but I believe that one was not a PK. I think it was a fair challenge. But the Musa challenge, it should have been a PK. He did kick him. He almost did try to do a kind of reverse nutmeg to where he tried to lace his foot in between Musa's legs and try to kick the ball, but he caught both of his legs. He caught his right leg and then his left leg right at the end, and it should have been a PK. And we're lucky just to even get a point out of it, and get the draw at Leicester City. It was just a stagnant game, and there wasn't many chances even created, even many good chances created. I thought looking at the team sheet going into the game, I thought, it's good. We have a lot of pace on the wings. We have some pace up front with Alexis Sanchez. The only kind of negative about the team sheet was, of course, Rob Holding, and then, of course, Francis Coquelin sitting next to Chaka. Um, but all in all, I mean, it was just there was not much to talk about. Even with the players, the only two names that I would actually point out that had good games or impact, they really impacted the game, um, was Koss, obviously, wearing the captain's armband, which he probably should just wear the captain's armband anyway. How he wasn't announced, I know he's not the most vocal person in the world, but at the same time, you want a player to be captain who's going to be on the pitch for, say, 85 to 90 or 85 to 90% of the games that you're going to be playing throughout the season. And now, Per is out for 5 6 months. Chances are, he would have been found out again early in the season like he always does, and he probably would have been dropped at some point. And then we would have, went through another captaincy to where, well, what we're doing right now, he can't play because he's injured. Much like Arteta over the last, like, basically 2 seasons. But he should be wearing a captain's armband. You saw you just saw his quality today. You really just saw what we were lacking last weekend in the Liverpool game, and the anticipation, the awareness, the challenges, the lead by example, almost, you could say, to where he was really just busting his ass out there today. Even though we had the majority of the possession, I think it was like 65-35 at the end of the game. It seemed like it was less than that because whenever Leicester did really counterattack, they really almost made the most of it. They weren't they really couldn't finish it obviously in the final third due to costs and due to just like cutting down passing lanes and whatnot. Um, but they really made the most. They really looked more dangerous than we ever did in the final third. But again, they just couldn't get that final ball through. But Costas, performance today, he was probably the man of the match for Arsenal. He was just, he was all over the place trying to help out, trying to stay back. Um, you know, for whatever reason, Coughlin was pushed forward again. It just didn't make any sense to have a player like that who is not a good enough passer, who's not good enough on the ball, who just he's a holding midfielder. He is the quintessential defensive holding midfielder who's going to give you that energy and tackling and whatnot. Even though sometimes it can be sporadic and it can cause you some problems, which happened today. How he stayed on the pitch for 90 minutes is beyond me. I mean, some of his challenges, he could have been sent off in the second half. There was a couple challenges. Luckily, Clattenburg was, I kid gloves today with fouls for the most part. You almost thought at the end of the game though with Rob Holding giving another penalty or giving another foul away so near the box that you were just hands in face. You're like, oh God, here we go again. He gave away the foul in the Liverpool game right near the end of the first half, and it kind of changed. Obviously, changed the momentum of that game, and it almost happened again today. Um, you know, People are praising him. Yeah, he had a decent game. There was a number of times where he gave the ball away, where he just basically kicked it right to a Leicester City player. He's just not ready yet. I mean, he's a championship player playing in the Premier League, playing against Liverpool, playing against Leicester City, the defending champions. It just really boggles my mind. And then the only other person that you can really talk good about, I think, is Chaka. I think Chaka had an overall good game. Wasn't a great game. There was a number of times where he did give the ball away. There was one back pass that he just fluffed completely, and Koss really had to bust his ass to get back and defend it. And you saw when Koscielny got up, man, he just gave the death stare to Chaka, and he kind of like, what the fuck was that? But Chaka's passing and his awareness and his vision too is I was really watching him today and looking at the way he passes the ball. He leads players into space, and the players we had on the pitch didn't pick up on it. They're just not ready for that type of passing, I guess you can say, to where Coughlin was always direct. He would always pass it directly to the person where they're standing, to where Chaka it is like Mesut Ozil in a way, to where Ozil will pass to you in the open space rather than passing directly to you. Obviously Ozil passes directly to somebody, but his passing style is he's going to lead you into the space that's open. He's going to lead you into the space where you should be able to accept the pass. And I was really watching it today, and Ox couldn't pick up on it. Monreal couldn't even pick up on it. Coughlin couldn't pick up on it either. It was really frustrating to watch these players who are uh, the experience which they hold just in football alone and in the Premier League and playing for Arsenal Football Club, who's supposed to be one of the best clubs in the world, have some of the best players in the world, and yet these players couldn't pick up on his passing style. Um, and that's something we need. We need to be passing into spaces rather than directing, because then we're just predictable, and players need to they really need to focus on this stuff. They really need to pick up on this stuff. And I mean, Shaka's been with the club, with the team since what, late July, training with the team since late July. So this shouldn't be new to a guy like Oxlade Chamberlain or Monreal or anybody on the pitch. but yet people weren't picking up on it. People didn't want to run into that space that Chaka saw within the game to accept the ball, and it's really frustrating to see players like this, especially like an Oxlade Chamberlain, who just no football IQ whatsoever. He had a nice run, a nice solo run, um, and he got away, and he just had acres of space in front of him. Alexi Sanchez, Theo Walcott were all just busting ass down the pitch, running with him to give him an outlet to pass to. And like I said, he gets to a certain point, and it just all falls apart. He got to the edge of the box, and he just stood there with the ball. And here comes Alexi Sanchez and Theo Walcott, and he just stands there with the ball. And what's he do? He passes backwards. Instead of passing it into the box, passing it to one of a streaking Theo Walcott or Alexi Sanchez, he just freezes. That just tells me he has no football IQ. He has no awareness. He does not know what to do with the ball. But yet he's starting for us because there's no one else, because we just sent Joel Campbell out on loan to Sporting CP. And it's a joke. But people want to hang this potential tag on him. Yeah, he's great on the ball, but that's it. That's where it ends. And it's just frustrating to watch that guy play and see all the opportunities that he could have had, see all the passing opportunities that he could have had, and he just doesn't do it. And it comes down to coaching, it comes down to managing, it comes down to the player himself. It seems like Oxlade Chamberlain is the new Frimpong. He's more concerned about social media, putting his picture, putting videos up on Twitter, Instagram, what have you, instead of working on these things, instead of identifying what his teammates want him to do rather than what he just wants to do. And it's very frustrating to watch because you see talent, but it's never going to be realized, unfortunately. I was listening to Sirius XM, which is over here in the States. Sirius XM FC, it's their own football channel dedicated to football. And there's one guy in the late morning, early afternoon, Jason Davis, who primarily just talks about the MLS. Well, and I really don't listen to his broadcast or anything because I don't really follow the MLS and I really don't care about it. But Landon Donovan was on. He had an interview with him, and he's one of the best, American football players that we've ever had, and just a legend in the United States. I know he probably wouldn't be a legend in England and whatnot, but who cares? But he was doing an interview with him, and he was talking about his early days when he used to be with Bayern Leverkusen, and when he was playing in Germany for, I believe it was like 2 or 3 years before he went back to the States. In the training methods in which Bayern Leverkusen had during that time. He was 19 years old in Germany, training, playing with Bayern Leverkusen, and he said there was times it was even an hour after practice, and coaches would come to his dorm room, knock on his door, and say, "Let's go, get your stuff, let's go. We're going back out to the training ground, and we're going to practice on your finishing for an hour and a half straight." And he said it would happen for at least 2 or 3 weeks, or 2 or 3 times a week that this would happen. And he said, it's not that I wanted to, it was because they made me do it. And because of that, it made him a great finisher. He's the leading scorer of MLS history. He's the leading scorer in US history. He's just a quality player. He's just a real good player. I would never classify Landon Donovan as a world class player, but he was right there. He was like top tier. He had all the attributes, but it was because of that training, because of coaches making him stay after practice and practice his finishing, made him the player he was. But with Oxlade Chamberlain, you just don't see it. You don't see what's getting better with his game. Yeah, he has pace, he has power, he has on the ball skills, but that's where it ends. If you can't have the football IQ, you don't have the passing, you don't have the awareness on the pitch, you're nothing. Like I said, he's Wilfred Zaha of Arsenal, and it's very frustrating to watch him play. It's very frustrating to watch even Theo Walcott play, and watching him on the ball is just a fucking disaster within itself. He had a couple chances today that I would call them half chances. I wouldn't call them real chances. I think he had maybe one real chance, which he actually hit with his left foot, and it was just directly at Schmeichel. And the only other chance that I can really say that we really had a definite chance was when I believe it was Alexis Sanchez played in Hector Bellerin. Hector Bellerin just went right to the end line. Alexis Sanchez continued on his run, and all that Hector Bellerin had to do was just slam it across goal. And it was just a lackluster effort. It was just he just barely hit the ball. It was so easy to defend, and he was so late on the pass to where if you bullet passed it right across goal, Alexis Sanchez was right there for a tap in. And it's just horrible. It's just horrible, and it's frustrating to watch. Time and time again, these players just missing opportunities to score. Arsene Wenger, even after last season, saying, "Well, we need more goals." But yet he doesn't sign a striker. He doesn't sign a winner. News came out today. Arsene Wenger answered a question that the Japanese kid will go out on loan because he can't get his fucking work permit. So it was kind of like a waste of $5 million. Which, if you probably waited a year until he maybe got on the Japanese national team, as I think you need to play at least 75% of the games or something like that over a year or two span uh, on your national team to obtain a work permit, so to speak. Or that you have to keep on waiting, much like Joel Campbell. He had to wait for God. No, not Joel Campbell. Wellington Silva. He was one that had to wait like 2 or 3 years to finally get his work permit. And of course, what does Arsene Wenger do? He ships him out. Doesn't even give him a real chance to try to prove himself in an Arsenal shirt on the pitch. He just sends him right out and sells him, um, which is just odd because he'll hold on to other players, um, which we should sell and get better at the position rather than holding on to some of these players. But other than that, the game, Mesut Ozil came in late, Olivier Giroud came in late, Jack Wilshere came in late. How Chaka was playing well. Yeah, like I said, he gave the ball away a few times, but you could see him settling in a little bit. He just, I think in the Liverpool game he was just trying too hard. As his first appearance, and nerves were probably getting the best of him. He's still young. He's still 23. But you could see today that he was really settling in, and he was really feeling confident, passing the ball and whatnot, and feeling confident in where he was on the pitch and whatnot. You were kind of seeing little glimpses of what you saw in the Euros from him. But how he got substituted off, I mean, he looked pissed off too. He didn't look happy that he got substituted off, and how Coughlin stayed on the pitch is again beyond me. But Jack Wilshere came on. Uh, Ozil and Giroud. Obviously, Ozil made the most impact. I mean, he created like two chances with the first 2 minutes he got on the pitch, and it's just like, you really want that guy back, because Cazorla today just there's nothing there. He didn't create anything. He didn't really look good on the ball. Didn't really pass all that well. He had, I think, like one decent shot on goal. He had that decent cross that Schmeichel almost made a mess of. It was almost kind of like the Ross Barkley free kick from the week previous when against Everton, or Everton against the Scum. It almost happened the same way. And man, if Koss just got the slightest touch on it, it probably would have went in the back of the net. But that was like his best moment of the day, and you almost kind of saw when Santi got subbed off. He just kind of sat there. He just looked like a bum almost. He looked like an old man, like he just like ran a marathon and stuff. Like he was just tired. But again, Ozil made the biggest impact. Jack, I mean, that's one partnership that I would love to see. Other than Chaka and Santi, I really want to see Chaka and Jack Wilshere, because that's really two aggressive midfielders, who will give you not only the physicality but the quality that you really need. That's one partnership that I want to see, whether it's this year or next year going forward. Whenever if we sell off Santi, or if we just keep him on until his contract runs out. Seems like that's the ongoing thing now at Arsenal, unfortunately, that we just let players' contracts run out instead of trying to sell them. But that's one partnership I really want to see going forward is Chaka and Jack Wilshere, because I think it can be a very dynamic, powerful um, um, midfield, in my opinion. And Jack has some defensive qualities. He's faster than Aaron Ramsey. He's faster than Santi, so he can track back a little bit faster than those two guys. And I just think it would be a great partnership because on the ball, passing wise, yeah, they're not going to give you a bunch of scoring, but they shouldn't have to. They should have to. The only thing that they have to really do is dictate the game, solidify the game of going forward, and even defensively as well to try to protect the back line. Um, but again, all in all, it was just we were lucky to even come out with 1 point. Should have won the game. I mean, it was all there. We should have been coming out pissed off, trying to score, trying to do everything that we could uh, to really win the game. Um, you know, Arsene Wenger said before the game that Olivier Giroud is just not there physically yet. You kind of wonder if he came back like Higuain did, where he just kind of sat back and ate throughout the whole summer that he had vacation. I know he's been in training obviously for the last 2 weeks, so that's kind of a concern that he's not there physically. I don't know if that means fitness wise or whatever, but hopefully, I mean, he's the only striker we have really, to be honest with you, because unfortunately, you know, Alexis was just out on an island by himself, getting surrounded by two big center backs, and he just didn't have any opportunities because Santi just couldn't give him any opportunities at all. The wingers couldn't give him any opportunities. Monreal is still trying to cross into the box. Our tallest person inside the box was Theo Walcott, and I think he's only 5'9". And so, like, crossing the ball as far as that went, you that, that was one other thing that just really caught my eye, especially in the first half, is that when Monreal or Bellerin was on the ball, or Santi, no one was making runs. Like, you just saw players just standing still. You saw the Ox standing still. You saw Theo make one or two runs here and there, but nothing all the time. You need players making runs all the time into the box, making diagonal runs, trying to get behind, giving a reason for Santi or even Chaka or Monreal and Bellerin to really pass the ball into the box. And those three guys weren't giving us any opportunities whatsoever. And overall, like I said, there was only two highlights. I think Chaka and Koscielny were the only kind of two highlights of the game. Obviously in the 15 minutes that Ozil played, um, you know, obviously with his chant, if we keep on going on like this, it's like we've got Ozil. It's gonna turn into we had Ozil at some point because, like I said, the quote by Arsene Wenger, we need more goals, but yeah, you don't sign a striker or a winner. And people who don't think that we needed Mahrez or we don't need a winner. I mean, today was evident that we need it. That we definitely need it. We need something. If you're not going to buy a striker, then go out there and try to find a winner that's going to give you the goals that you need. That's going to give you that. I know a lot of people are trying to talk about James Rodriguez all of a sudden. I just don't buy that. Arsene Wenger's not going to spend that type of money. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Until the day he does, I'm just going to keep on saying that because there's no evidence that he's going to. But a lot of people are talking about James Rodriguez, and I just don't see it happening. I think Chelsea has more of a chance to sign him than we do because they're willing to spend that money. I just don't know where he's going to fit. I don't know where he's going to play, to be honest with you. It seemed like today Chelsea was playing more in that 3-5-2 formation that Conte likes to play in. So I don't know where James really fits in unless he's going to play right behind. But Cis Fabregas had a good game today. I don't know if you saw that pass to Diego Costa for the winning goal, but that's the type of things that guy can do. Um, but again, I just don't see it. I just don't. He talked about Mustafi after the game. It was one of the only positive um, quotes coming out of this press conference, or the news media conference that he had at the end of the game, was saying that Mustafi is close and we're trying to get the deal done. It shouldn't have taken this long to begin with. If we're not going to buy a striker, we're not going to buy a winner, something like this should not take this long. We shouldn't be penny pinching at this point. Because if you're not going to spend 30, 40, 50 million on another striker, what's the point of holding money back when we're in desperate need of a quality center half? And hopefully he comes in. I mean, yes, he says it, but at the same time, he can just turn around and we're not going to sign anybody. Going into the rest of the quotes, there's only a few quotes I want to talk about. At the end of the game, Arsenal fans, I'm sure you saw the video of it, of Arsenal away fans, and there's a lot of them. Usually we have anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000, depending on the stadium in which we attend. Arsenal fans screaming, "We want Wenger out, we want Wenger out." Now you're looking at the away fans. The away fans are some of the best fans that we have at this club. They're always loud, they always sing, they travel well, it's the same people. It seems like a nice little away community for Arsenal. Those are the passionate fans right there. Those are the ones that you really want rocking even the Emirates every home game. But of course, unfortunately, they're scattered throughout throughout the Emirates, and they're not together. But when they are together at the away games, they're loud. They're great. And today was probably the last straw for Arsene Wenger. I don't think there's any way, because especially when you lose fans like that, it's over. I mean, it really is over. They will continue to support the team. They'll continue to support the players. But when it comes to Arsene Wenger, I think it's done. I think it really is. I think it's done. And I hope so. I hope this is his last season. Because what he said after the game about those fans is a slap in the face. It is the worst thing, one of the worst things you could possibly say. And here's the quote from Sam Wallace on Twitter. It says, "Wenger on chance calling him to spend money, and the Wenger out chance. Well, it doesn't cost a lot of money to do that. We know the ticket prices have lowered at Arsenal for away matches across the board at every Premier League match now. But to say that to these traveling fans who spend their hard-earned money, not only do they have season tickets at the Emirates, not only do they overpay for that, but then they pay for their away tickets and the traveling costs, regardless if they take a charter or they take their own car. But to say that to your own fans who really have supported you, I mean, these were some of the fans, they held up banners last season. Just a little minority of them, okay? But if you see that tweet, if you see that video of saying we want Wenger out, and seeing them saying spend the fucking money, there's a lot of them. There's more than just a few. There's more than just the minority. It's the majority now of the away fans. And when you say something like that, it doesn't cost a lot of money to do that. It's a slap in the face, especially for someone who makes £8.5 million per fucking year to do what? This guy doesn't care about anything but himself. He doesn't care about the fans, obviously. These are some of the most passionate fans in Arsenal Football Club as far as locals go. And he just slapped them all in the face. All of them. It is unbelievable the, the quotes that he's been saying throughout this entire week, 2 weeks, this whole fucking summer. Here's another quote. Wenger on clubs spending big money. What matters to me is that you have 600 employees and can afford to pay them. He's more worried about the employees at Arsenal Football Club, 600 of them, than actually spending the money and making the squad better, making the squad ambitious, making them a title contender, making them a Champions League contender. First, he's slapping the fans in the face, saying that, well, it doesn't cost a lot of money. But then he's talking about the 600 employees in Arsenal Football Club, again, while this motherfucker makes £8.5 million a year. If you care about the 600 employees, take a pay cut. He's never going to do that. If he cared so much about this football club, then, if he's worried so much about the money, take a pay cut. Pay some of the players that are worth a damn on this team to give them raises that they deserve. Ozil deserves 180, 200,000 pounds a week. Same with Alexis Sanchez. One of those two guys are leaving after this summer or after the season, because the frustration is just going to mount and mount and mount more and more, while this guy sits on the bench doing nothing, but makes $8.5 million a year. You saw Leicester City and Ranieri and his assistant coach, who is also going to help out the England national team. Two of them, Ranieri was on the touchline and his assistant coach was right behind him, shouting out orders to his back line to stay organized. But there's Arsene Wenger and Steve Boulder sitting on his fucking ass, doing nothing. For basically about 75 to 80 minutes of the game. Doing nothing. Ranieri was on the fucking touchline the entire fucking game. Say what you will, but in-game adjustments matter. Keeping your, especially when you have a young, inexperienced center half for the second straight week playing for you. And when you have a fucking tackling madman, a sliding madman in Francis Coquelin, who at any moment can be a ticking time bomb and get his ass sent off. But we're not seeing anything. We're not seeing anything. We're not, we want ambition from the club. I want ambition from the fucking manager most of all. Because if we had that, we would probably win the majority of our games. We could beat more title contenders. But yet he just sits there and does nothing. Over and over again. I'm a broken record. I know I've been saying this a lot prior. But it's annoying. It's annoying to see fans on Twitter just, now AKBs are blaming social media and media outlets like Talk Sport and Sky Sport and pundits, and they're running out of excuses, man. They're really running out of excuses. They're trying to blame, even Arsene Wenger in this press conference too, is blaming the press because of the outcry of the fans. No, we are influenced by what we see on the pitch. We can see these things. Thierry Henry doesn't have to tell us that we're playing like dog shit. Ian Wright doesn't have to tell us that we're playing like dog shit. We see it. We see the lack of goals. What do we need? What would give us more goals? A striker, a winner. What would help us defensively? A new center half. But we don't see it. We're not influenced, but these are the people who are speaking for us. Because I mean, let's face it. Who at Arsenal Football Club is really gonna listen to this? No one. It's only the fans. But then it is proven that places like TalkSport, Sky Sports, and BBC, they're picking up on this stuff. They're picking up and interviewing people on TalkSport radio, on BBC radio. They're interviewing some of these Arsenal fans that are doing these podcasts. So the message is starting to get out there. And that's the last thing that Stan Kroenke, Ivan Gazidis, and Arsene Wenger want. Because the jury is out now. It's a guilty plea across the board. And that's the last thing a club like this wants. Because everything is wrong. One of my viewers asked us, what kind of podcast do I listen to and what are some other good Arsenal podcasts. If you want humor and all that, you want a lighter side of Arsenal Football Club, you want to laugh a little bit, Arscast, Arsblog, that's the way to go. If you really want some serious, in-depth, intelligent speaking and thoughts about Arsenal Football Club, past and present, the Gooner Ramble is probably the best podcast that's out there. Those guys are amazing. And if you listen to Gooner Ramble episode 62, they just did one. I think it was released on Thursday night or Friday morning, something like that. It's depressing, man. I mean, and everything is true. Everything from start to finish. I mean, those guys are great of how they do it, and they're so underrated too. Of how limited amount of fans they or subscribers they have on YouTube and whatnot. They're on iTunes and I think Android and all that stuff. But if you listen to that episode, I highly suggest it. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. Everything is true in it, man. I mean, it's just depressing of how the club is being run, how the club doesn't understand what's going on and what they're actually doing. Because I think in 3 years' time, the way things are going right now, the way upper management is handling, the way the Arsenal board is handling this, we're going to be a mid-table team. We're going to be Liverpool of what they are currently, I guess you can say. We're going to be Tottenham in a way. Because if we don't reach top four this year, Sanchez or Ozil, maybe both, are gone. We've heard before the season end, we heard little rumblings of Ozil signing a new contract. And then he said, well, I'll wait till after the Euros because I want to concentrate on the Euros. And then now I'm going to wait till after the transfer window. Just like even Sanchez, same thing. Sanchez even said, I'm going to wait till after the window to sign a new contract. That is a tidal wave of shit coming straight at Arsenal. Because these were the two players to inform the rest of the world, the rest of the football world, that things are changing finally. These were the two players that were, you're going to look back, you're going to, 20 years from now, you're going to look back and say, those are the two guys who started it all. Those are the two guys who brought greatness back to Arsenal Football Club. If any one of those two guys leave, we're screwed. We're definitely screwed, and I think it's going to happen. I think Alexis Sanchez will leave before Ozil would. Just because I don't, I can't say yes or no if Alexis Sanchez actually loves the club. I don't know if he really cares that much like other players may have, like in the past or currently. He wants to win. That's the I mean, that's the real equation right there. He wants to win. He wants to win trophies. That's his main objective. But if we fall out of top four this season, which we have a real good chance of doing, it's gonna be doom and gloom. And then Arsene Wenger's gonna say I retire, and he's just gonna leave a mess behind. With a shitload of money. I mean, there was another video by if you want to look at my timeline, I tweeted it out. It was about Kroenke, Uzmanov, and Arsenal finances. And according to this person who did this video, which is just recently, that we have 233 million pounds sitting in the bank currently, which is more than we have in debt. Currently, we have something around like 228 million pounds in debt, which is good. It's good debt. It's not. It's like long-term debt. It's not bad debt. Bad debt is something you have to pay within the next few years. Where this is a long-term debt, whereas it can take us 20 years to pay off. And considering 228 million or so, it's one of the lowest of any big clubs in the world. But then we have more cash reserves than we do have debt, and I mean we could just pay off our debt completely right now if we wanted to. I mean that's how much money we have. You consider what we'll get in uh, TV contract from this season, Champions League, FA Cup ties. Um, we're probably going to have something around an excess of 350 million going into next summer. That's a lot of fucking money, man. That's a lot of money. I mean, we'll probably double, at least double, of what anybody else has in cash reserves, and that's insane. When you're in an industry where the saying goes, you have to spend money to make money, and right now they're just not doing it. And whether Arsene Wenger is holding back the money so that when a new manager comes in, which it actually seems like it's going to be Steve Bold, which is terrifying to me, for him to spend the money. It's a joke. It really is. The players were out there this summer and available, and some of them weren't crazy money. You're looking at Lacazette and Vardy. All they want to do is make one bid and say at least we tried. No, you didn't. You made one bid for Lacazette. You didn't go back in for a second one. Let's say, for example, and I'm going to say this in euros. Let's say, our first bid was 35 million euros. And then Leon says, nope, we want at least 50. Okay, see you later. But instead, you should come back with another bid and make it better, say 43, 42 or 43 million euros. And of course, Leon will come back and say maybe, well, our lowest of low will be 48 million euros. So then you're negotiating. So now you can negotiate even further and just say, well, okay, maybe our final bid is something around 46.5 million euros. And then Leon's just gonna sit there and like, because they're in financial trouble. Obviously a Chinese group came in and bought 20% of their club. If they sold off Lacazette for say close to 50, maybe they wouldn't have had to have sold 20% of their club. But yet Arsenal didn't go back in for a second bid. One bid. But people want to try to say that we tried. We didn't try. We made that piss poor low ass bid just so we could tell the fans, so the fans would eat it up and believe it. Psst. Whoever wants to believe that, good luck to you. And for the rest of the window, what have we done? Where is there any real strong links to another striker? Where is our scouting network? Where's our scouting network saying, okay, this player is available, that he's good, he can, with the right coaching, he can be top tier. Where is that? Nowhere. And then Wenger came out before the game on Thursday and Friday, when basically said in so many words, well, we probably won't sign a striker. We have Giroud, Alexis, Theo, Akpom, and da 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 Sinogo. To even put that guy's name in a fucking sentence is a joke within itself. He couldn't make it at Ajax. He couldn't really make it at Charlton, who is what, League One, League Two at this stage. Again, putting so much faith in these players who are just. And Alexis Sanchez can't be the guy without a proper number 10. I think if Ozil played the entire game, those two could have really played off of each other the entire game. But Santi just didn't have it today. I mean, maybe it's age. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's still nursing his Achilles injury. Maybe he still doesn't trust his feet, his leg. Coming back from a knee injury as well. I'm not gonna praise Alexis Sanchez because he didn't have a good game. You know, he was surrounded by fucking monsters the entire game. He really couldn't get into the game at all. He was even trying to come up into the midfield a lot to try to get the ball, to try to get a touch, and just wasn't really there. Other than that one sequence between him and Bellerin. That was his only like real maybe chance, but he never really got the chance to even kick the ball. But it's just a concern, man. I mean, if from Ivan Gazidis to Arsene Wenger, they should just put fucking duct tape over their mouth. And even Stan Kroenke, I mean, everybody's hoping and praying that this guy sells at some point, or he sells the majority of his stake, because just like Wenger and just like Gazidis, they don't give a shit. This guy has not put a single penny of his own money into the club. That was the whole reason to bring him in to Arsenal Football Club. So that he would dump, say, 40, maybe 60 million pounds of his own money so that we can keep on contending with everybody else and buy players and keep our players instead of selling them off. This guy hasn't put one penny of his own money, but yet he takes out £4 million a year in consulting fees. Doesn't put money in, he takes money out. Arsene Wenger, he takes money out, but he doesn't want to spend it. He wants to take Arsenal money, just like Stan Kroenke, but he doesn't want to spend Arsenal money. It's a fucking joke. There's so many things that are wrong with this football club and in the way it's run. They don't understand. Kroenke and his whole enterprise group does not understand what's going on. And I'll go back to the Gunnar Ramble episode of, episode number 62. They really go in depth about that, and it's scary. And it really is fucking scary. At the end of it, I was so depressed of listening to that episode. It was all true, but at the same time, it was so depressing that you can see it. I mean, you can see where we're heading currently. And it's mid-table, man. That's where we're heading. And it's unfortunate. It really is. I mean, even Ivan Gazidis said it himself, we're prepared if we get knocked out of the top four. Who fucking says that? Another thing that those guys brought up too, which is not a single person in Arsenal Football Club from Ivan Gazidis up, even the Arsenal board, has never said, we want to win the league. We want to win Champions League. Arsene Wenger mumbles it a few times here and there, but no one ever really believes him. And what we see on the pitch is what we're influenced by, not from what the fucking media says. Because believe me, there's a lot of idiots in the media, Michael Owen, you name any of those guys. And the quotes that Thierry Henry made last week at the end of the Liverpool game, I mean, that was a shot in the heart. That's a former player. That's a club legend. That's next to Dennis Bergkamp, the best player that we've ever had at the club, saying that. I think he's been. Yeah, I think he was kind of waiting to say something like that, just to throw a little jab back at Arsene Wenger. But it was just, it was one of those shots in the heart, man. Arsene Wenger is lucky that next week we play at Watford, and we do not play at the Emirates. We don't play at the Emirates until after the international break, which is September 10th. And 3 days later, we have to play our first Champions League group stage match. If he doesn't, I wish the Watford game was at home, just so maybe someone can start gaining a protest and just not go. Just don't go to the game. Even though I know people have paid their hard-earned money, I know I'm stupid for saying that. I shouldn't be saying that because I haven't, I don't have season tickets. I didn't pay for them out of my own pocket and yada yada. But something needs to happen, because the fans have the largest voice. But it's unfortunate that some of these other fans are just so blind about what's really going on. I mean, Arsene Wenger can get us regulated out of the Premier League, and these people would still celebrate him. It's just shocking. It really is. But tell me what you think. Tell me your frustrations. I think I've gone on long enough. I mean, I could probably go on for another hour or two, to be honest with you. And maybe I'll do something more this week. But that's all I've got for you today. And rest of the season doesn't look positive, does it? Especially if we don't sign anybody. It's going to help if we sign Mustafi. I mean, it's definitely really going to help. But we don't bring in any attacking players. That's better than Theo. That's better than that's better than Oxley Chamberlain. Maybe even slightly lesser than Olivier Giroud or something. Danny Welbeck's supposed to be back in December, but I mean, come on, it's December. In Arsenal terms, he won't be back until the new year anyway. We don't buy any attacking players to give us more goals, to give us that opportunity, to give us that competition up front that we need. We're gonna. I don't know. Fuck it. Yeah, I'm done. Later.